Good morning. It is June 20th after a long weekend. Markets are a little bit soft this morning. A few things going on. You probably saw in the Longbow arrows that China, they obviously reduced rates a little bit, not as much as people expected. So investors were hoping for more. Also, they were hoping for some stimulus announcements, which they haven't gotten. It's a little bit reverberating around the world. Probably noticed that last week we had 100 on the Longbow doomsday signal. So it meant, put some shorts on, put some hedges on. So if you did that, you can decide today what you want to do with them. But I wanted to go around the world a little bit. We've talked about China. We've talked about different areas. And then today, if you've been reading up on Bloomberg, they have a little story out by Mark Mobius. He's the co-founder of Mobius Capital. He's a really good EM investor, and he's talking about India being the real future. India's growth rate is about 7% plus. It's one of the highest in the world. He talks about how a good rule of thumb is that if a country's growing, call it 5%, then, a good company should be growing 10%, so double that amount. So they're expecting 14% earnings per share growth and some kind of return of capital, return on assets of 20% or more for really good companies. So that's quite attractive. It's been a soft market relative to the US market. And they're talking about building up their securities there, their portfolios, maybe taking a little money out of Taiwan, putting it into India. They also have a strong investment in South Korea. Our team does for our international institutional investors, as well as our global long-short investors. We do have positions internationally in some of these countries, but you're probably saying, okay, well, what can I do if I can't do local securities? Well, we've given you a few ETFs on the Longbow dashboard today that you can follow. So let's head over there. So here, I'm just giving you SPY because you're probably saying after a long weekend, let's get those cobwebs off the brain. Where are we? We're in a neutral. It's been obviously short-term bullish, medium-term bullish, but I'm giving you an India ETF, that's the INDA, as well as a South Korea ETF, EWY. India is in the middle of the range. That's bullish, short-term, medium-term. So is South Korea, bullish, short-term, intermediate-term. But it's closer to the low end of its trading range. So the last price is $65 and change for the South Korea ETF EWY. The low end of the range, $64.63. High end, closer to $69.43. So your odds are 7.2 to 1 there on South Korea, which to me seems pretty attractive. We like various consumer-oriented businesses in South Korea, some tech companies. We've got at various different places, industrials and the like. But that's when you're going into local shares. So this is one way to have a bigger bet, kind of broad-based bet, I should say, on the country overall and its growth rate. Similar to India, but it's not quite attractive, right? You're like negative 1.1 to 1. It's roughly in the middle end of its range, 1.85% upside to minus 2.1% downside. So not an attractive trade right now. But if you see this hit the lower end of the range for South Korea, most likely you'll probably also see core signal pop there too. And the VIX, we're in a little bit above the middle end of the range there, but it's bearish. So as you know, volatility has been trending down. Again, when do you put on protection? When it's cheap. You probably read the Longbow Arrow note about how a lot of private equity firms did not put rate hedges on their portfolios, and now they're paying for it terribly. So learn the lesson, guys. Learn from banks, learn from PE shops, learn from folks who don't have protection. When you put it on when it's cheap. So we're giving that to you today. So if you do hedge your portfolio, it's another day you can think about it. Let's head over the Doomsday Dozen, where we're still at a really strong 100. So putting that together with what we're talking about in the general area, protection time. That's it for today, and we'll catch you back tomorrow.